Winston Churchill once said, "It's not enough to have lived. We should be determined to live for something." And Bishop T.D. Jakes said, "If you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion, for your passion will lead you right into your purpose." And guess what the name of this show is? You are watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. My name is Karen Seltz, and I am your host. I am so excited to talk about this topic. It's one of the things that really, really lights me up because I talk to so many people that are feeling like stuck in their lives or like they're not living their purpose. And there is not a lot of passion in their lives present. So, what I love to talk about is ways to ignite that passion and to find your purpose. And I thought tonight I would share some of my journey that has led me to living what I consider to be a purpose filled life, like living my purpose on purpose and feeling that passion in my work, in my personal life, in everything that I do. And it didn't happen all at once. It was a slow journey. And I think, I've had a lot of conversations this week that are really lighting me up. And one of the things that's been coming up a lot is I thought it would be different once I got to the other side. And I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. Have you ever had that happen where you're like, okay, once I reach this, I'll be happy. Or once this happens, then I can do this other thing. But what happens is new level, new devil. Like once you reach the other side, things don't magically change unless you magically changed somewhere along that journey. But just having the thing doesn't mean anything. And I think about all the Hollywood stars that have committed suicide, and like the comedians, especially. They thought, oh, once I'm famous, then this depression or this feeling of not enough or not worthy will go away. And it just doesn't. Like wherever you go, there you are. I'm full of cliches tonight, but think about it. Have you ever moved or switched jobs? And boy, the same problem boss shows up, not the same person, but the same problems just in a different person, right? Or your coworkers don't respect you again, or you switch relationships and it turns out to be almost exactly the same. So that happens a lot with us. And one of the things that I just freaking love, it's so much fun to me, is delving into the subconscious mind and mixing that with spirituality and how the two go together so well. So we're going to dive into a little bit of that, but I want to talk a little bit about, how I have experienced this. So I think it's really fascinating. For me, I was so afraid to go all in on something unless I was 100% sure that this was the right thing. And what I didn't realize was that there's no such thing as the wrong thing. Every single choice that I made or that you make will lead me closer or further away from what I really want. And once I started to realize that and then incorporate those realizations into a practice of, interesting, like having a neutral relationship with my results. And I still don't have this perfectly down. I mean, let's be honest, I'm a human. Surprise. I know, I crack myself up. But think about it, like have you ever had this expectation or a goal in mind and then you fall short? And then you beat yourself up and make it mean something about you, like, oh, I didn't do well enough. I didn't do all the things, or I'm not good enough, like whatever. There are all kinds of stories that we can tell ourselves. And we often do, if you're anything like me, at least. So developing that neutral relationship with your results, what that means is you look at it like, okay, which part of, getting there worked? What would I like to duplicate next time I do this thing? And what part could I improve or what didn't work at all? And just looking at it as an observer from a neutral standpoint. Like if it was your best friend, you wouldn't make up, oh, you're such a piece of crap. You're so unworthy because you didn't hit your goal. Like you would never ever think that, I would hope. I would hope, right? But we do that to ourselves. We're so mean sometimes. And it's learning to just be neutral, like, oh, interesting. Because if you make it mean something negative about you, your mind will go into protection mechanism, which is like, I'm never going to do that again. That didn't work. I failed, or I'm a failure. And then we're less likely to take risks. So when we can do this from that neutral place, which is like looking at the data like a scientist, and then say, okay, so this part really worked a lot better than I thought it did. And this part, okay, now I know what to do next time. So I'm going to use a really random example. So my niece, many years ago, she met this man at a wedding who lived in a different state, and they had a long distance relationship. And, they saw each other, they flew back and forth. And she decided to get married to this man and move down there. And she said, Aunt Karen, so many people are telling me this is a mistake. And I said, you really can't do it wrong. Like, there's no way for you to know unless you go. And if it doesn't work out, then you are free to choose again. You are always free to leave and come back. And that relationship did end in divorce, but she had a son from somebody else who gained grandparents, and they still fly him out all the time. Like, it's such a beautiful thing that never would have happened unless she took that risk. So there are these other peripheral benefits that we can never foresee. And when you're really looking at it from the neutral relationship with your results perspective, there's so much to gain every time you make a choice. And the only choice that won't get you any further is not making a choice, which is also a choice. Well, that was kind of, I negated myself, but not taking any action, because action always creates clarity. It either shows you, okay, yes, go more in this direction or go in this other direction instead. So that was one of the ways that I stayed safe for a really long time. And I call it like a racket, like something that I believed to be true. And it's complete BS, but it made so much sense in my head. Like, why would I invest all this time and money and energy into this thing that doesn't feel like it's the right thing for me, when I could just like sit and pray and meditate until I find the thing? But I did that for so long and I got no results and no closer to anything except self-hatred. And, really, I was not proud of myself for not doing anything. I felt like I lacked courage and there was something missing in me, like I was defective because I couldn't take action. So a year or so ago, I launched this thing. I did a beta program, and it was Video Authority Academy. And I thought, this is really good. It's right up my alley. It's so easy for me to connect to my heart and to speak. So I thought, okay, I'll teach that. And I did. And it's so funny because I didn't notice it at the time, but I was still teaching the things that I'm really passionate about, which are spirituality and mindset and doing things to rewire the brain and talking about spirituality and consciousness and all these things. But in the context of, let's get you on video, let's get you showing up. And then I had this epiphany in December. I was at a business event with my coach, and it dropped in like, this is the wrong thing, but it got you closer. And so now, like, I am so passionate and it feels like 100% aligned. Finally, it's like, finally. But this thing that dropped in never would have happened if I hadn't have been taking those steps that I could look back on and say, oh, you're still teaching the same thing, the thing that you're meant to do here, at least at this phase. And what dropped in was sacred purpose embodiment. Now, what that means to me is many people are aware of why they're here or what they're meant to do. Like if you had asked me many years ago, I would have said, I really want to be a speaker and a teacher, and I want to inspire people to be different. And I want to use my story to inspire them. But I didn't have confidence and I didn't believe that my stories were any good, really. I thought they were kind of boring. But the embodiment part was what was missing for me. Like I didn't have the confidence, I didn't have the skills, and my mind would not support me actually living my purpose and monetizing it, which I think for a lot of us, that's our goal, is to quit our day jobs and monetize our purpose. So then it just like, it was a complete download. It's like, boom, boom, boom. All right, step one, like do all the things that you did, Karen, to create a clean slate. So I did like this trauma release work. And there's another story, right? Like I didn't think I had any big T traumas. And so I thought, oh, what do I have to be depressed about? Or why can't I do this? And blah, blah, blah. But turns out I had a ton of little T traumas over a very long period of time that resulted in me being paralyzed and not believing that I was as good as other people. So once I cleared that trauma, then it was like freedom. And one of the biggest ways that I first noticed it was I went to a 12-step meeting and I went to introduce myself, and I was sober for like 3 years at the time. And I said, hi, I'm Karen. And I just stopped dead in my tracks. And I'm like, huh, no, I'm not. I am no longer an addict. Like it was completely erased from my identity. And I'm like, wonder what else is different. So, I mean, it's so fascinating. And that was 6 years ago. And I've never been back to another 12-step meeting. It's just gone from my identity. Like I never would consider going back to that person because she doesn't exist anymore. It was all related to how I had stored trauma and didn't resolve it. So I got trained in this process that helped me to overcome all those fears. Like I was also terrified of picking up the telephone to make a cold call because it's a long story, but I grew up in a chaotic environment. I never knew when I was going to get hit. And so I grew up reading people's faces. Okay, if I say this, am I still safe? How about, okay, oop, that doesn't look so good. I'm going to switch. So I was like bobbing and weaving all the time so that I didn't get hit or didn't get yelled at or whatever. I stayed safe. But on the telephone, I couldn't see people's faces. So I couldn't change who I was being in order to stay safe. And I was terrified. So once I cleared that trauma, I'm like, I'm not afraid to pick up the telephone, which was a good thing because I was in sales. Imagine like I would walk into places and make cold calls, but I was terrified to call anybody for an appointment. So it was not a good thing to have as a salesperson. So then the second thing that dropped in as far as my program goes, like my new thing, is Rewire. So many, many years ago, probably almost 20 years ago, I got certified in brain gym. And this is a amazing process. It uses like simple movements and the acupressure system, like the meridians of the body, the way the energy flows, to rewire the brain for new goals and habits. And it makes them so easy and natural. You're like, I can't believe I couldn't do this before. It's so easy. And when I discovered it, I was in my master's program and I could not read a textbook. I just couldn't. And I felt so stupid. Like, how did I graduate from college? I cannot read a textbook. And then I realized I developed these coping skills. Like I would find the smart people in the class and say, hey, can I study with you? Because I'm an auditory learner. And I would just like, they would quiz each other and I'd be like, I would suck it all in and then I would test really well. So, but in this one particular class in my master's program, that was not an option. And I found this brain gym. I rewired my brain for that. In 90 minutes, I could read anything and retain it really quickly. I'm like, whoa, what is this? So I got certified in that. And then the third part of my program is really putting everything. So most people that I deal with, they've had lots of coaching, they've done lots of programs, and they can't implement them. Their brain, their mind will not support them. So they're like beating themselves up because they've spent all this money on things and they're not implementing it. So what I do is like we clean the slate, we rewire the brain, we put new things in there, and then we start implementing all the things that they've learned up until now in a way that becomes a habit. So they get these things on autopilot. These new habits and behaviors are on autopilot. Just so fun to actually embody it instead of just talking about it or knowing this philosophy. You ever like know that you're worthy, but then you feel like crap about yourself? Well, this is the embodiment process. This is getting it into your cells, and it's so delicious. I just love it. So all the things that led me to that were what some people would say mistakes, right? Like that wasn't my thing. I spent thousands of dollars developing this Video Authority Academy program and promoting it, and it didn't really pay off. But it led me to this other thing that is amazing and that I love. And so the steps that I really want to share with you and to be on your path. One is really starting to notice your body. That's usually the easiest place for most people to notice fear, for example. So when you notice your body contracting and your energy field is also contracting, then just notice, teach yourself to notice it and do the opposite. So the opposite of fear is love. So choose to receive love. Now, this is interesting, right? So stay with me here. Choose to receive love. And how to do this is just stop what you're doing. I call it stop, drop, and roll. So stop what you're doing, drop into your heart, ask God, source, spirit, the divine, what would you have me do? And then roll with what the messages that you get. And you might not hear a voice, you might have a knowing, you might have a vision. There's so many ways that we receive and that we communicate with the divine, but they're available to you. Yes, you. So when you notice like contraction in your body or a fear thought, like, oh my gosh, ooh, or you want to hide or shrink, or you're feeling unworthy or unlovable, stop and decide to be the one who gives yourself love. I know it's weird. And one of the ways that I like to do this that's easy for me is to just stop, close my eyes, and as I inhale, I say, I accept, not in my head, not out loud. I accept. And then on the exhale, the love of God. And I used to do this for 5 minutes every single day. It's called Love's Breath. And for me, once I got it, it took a few weeks or whatever. Once I got it that God or the divine loved me, it didn't matter what anybody else thought. It really didn't matter. And then I even would go so far as to say, like, who am I to question God? Like, I was talking to a client today. I'm like, I'm such a special snowflake. I'm the only piece of crap that God ever created, right? Like, we actually think that stuff sometimes. It's ridiculous, but it sounds so convincing in our heads. It really does. So step one, notice your fear thoughts and then drop in and do the breath, 5 minutes. I accept the love of God. I accept the love of God. Yes. It's simple, which is why it works. It's so simple to remember it. It's not simple to do it like in the moment, but you'll get good at it. Develop a low tolerance for that icky feeling. When you start to notice your body doing that, just say, oh, what am I believing, right? Because you're believing something that is out of alignment for you, that's out of alignment with the truth, or else it wouldn't feel that bad. That's one way you can use your body to create change. And you can change your state just like that. Once you start noticing it, you're like, oh, interesting. What am I believing that is out of alignment with the truth of who I am or why I'm here, for example? I love that. It's so easy when you start to notice your body because it doesn't lie. It's the beautiful lie detector. I say that a lot. All right, so this is an exercise, step 2, that I have a lot of people do because I think we don't spend enough time doing these things. So what I'm recommending is you make a list of where you experience the love of God or where you experience flow or bliss. Where does time disappear when you're doing what activity? For some people, maybe it's taking a bath. For some people, watching comedy, like whatever it is. Make a list of these things and add to it often. Add to the list every time you're like, oh my gosh, that could go on my list. Like one of my things is skipping. I just adore it. I think it's so much fun. And when I'm in a bad mood or I'm like, I need to shift some energy in my body, this is crazy. It's silly, but I think it's really fun. I run across my house and my dog is super playful. She chases me and it makes me laugh every single time because no matter where she is, she could be in a dead sleep. If I start running, she's right there like whoop, whoop, whoop. And she's, having fun. And then we play and it just makes me giggle. And so what are the things that make you giggle? Hopefully you have some like that. Like I have a ridiculous dog and she's hilarious. She jumps very high. I don't know. She makes me laugh. So what are those things? Make a list. And then step 3, this is easy. It's the embodiment process. Do them every single day. Do at least, 3 of those things every day. So maybe it's 5 minutes breathing in. I accept the love of God. Hopefully that will make your list eventually once you do it enough times. Maybe it's telling somebody a joke, or do you ever do that? Like you share funny TikToks or Instagram reels or something with your friends, and then you get this banter going that's fun. It's fun. It feels good when you can shift people's frequency and raise it up and increase it. I think it's lovely. It's lovely. So your purpose has always left clues. There have always been these little breadcrumbs, and many people run from those voices or those promptings. And they're like, who am I? Who am I to want these things? Who am I to think I could do that? Well, who are you not to? Like if it is in you, it is meant for you. And we live in a very kind universe. You have everything you need already within you to accomplish it. Now, that having been said, do not beat yourself up. Please don't beat yourself up. That doesn't lead to anything good. You know that. You've experienced it. Know that up until this very moment, you have always done the best you could. You have always made the best choice available to you. Yes, in hindsight, would you like to change some things? Maybe, maybe not. If you look at where it led you and what it led you to, you might not change a thing. Now, in this moment, this is your moment of choice. What are you choosing right now? Right now, what do you desire? Who do you desire to be? What are you here for? What is calling you forward? And you just take that one step, and then check in. Okay, what would you have me do now? Okay, do the thing. I used to do this all the time. I used to pray and meditate, and I would journal. I would journal my questions and journal my answers from spirit. And then I would close my notebook and go about my day and do none of the things, right? Like I would ask, what would you have me do? I'd write it all down and then close it and do none of them. When you do none of them, you don't often get more steps. You get to do the ones you get first. So do the steps, do them. And who knows where it will lead you? It will be someplace delicious. So play. I was also talking to a client today about seriousness. That seriousness is of the ego. Our spirits are playful. We are meant to have fun and enjoy life. And when we're serious, like when you're serious, just know the ego's got you and you're listening to the wrong voice, the voice of the ego. And all you get to do is just ask God, like, hey, I'm being very serious. Okay, help me to lighten up. Like, just say something, pray, talk to God. I mean, God is within you and all around you. It's not like some entity in the sky, right? I don't know. It's just fun. I'm rambling, but I really want you to get this, that it is within you. You do have the ability to shift things and to create whatever you want. If your mind, you feel like it's sabotaging you, reach out to me. I can help you with that. It's so fast and almost painless that it's kind of ridiculous. It's but it's so worth it on the other side. So if I'm talking to you, reach out, like DM me, send me a message. You can find me everywhere. Karen@KarenSeltz.com. You can email me and let's set up a call. Have a beautiful day or night wherever you are. Thank you so much for watching Irresistible. You ignite your passion and purpose. I'll see you right here next week. Bye.